KayFabe Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rompa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what is going on? This is August 12th, 2021. You're tuning into the KayFabe Smark Podcast. We are live on YouTube. Make sure you guys get on over to YouTube and like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Make sure you do all of that. Follow us on all the social media platforms. And we are going to dig in, talk about AEW, talk about some wrestling news, talk about whatever is going on in the world. But first, let's check in with our buddy, Mr. Eric Todd. Eric, what's happening over there?
Oh, you know, same old. An exciting day in the Todd household today, Brian.
Oh, yes.
My dog, Stella Marie, is looped out of her mind, high as a kite on trazodones. I had to take her in to get her nails done. An old girl don't like people touching her feet, so she's zonked. She forgot how to eat treats, and it's a spectacle to see. But other than that, I'm just ready to talk about some wrestling. What's up with you?
Nothing much. It has been a rainy week here in Michigan. I don't know if you got rained out, but we got rained out, and lots of down power lines and down internet and all that fun stuff. So I've been dealing with that, but didn't get any flooding in the house this time, so my basement is dry. But let's talk about wrestling and not about my house being wet in the basement. You got any news?
Well, if we want to pop right into it, I got plenty of news for us this week. Go ahead and hit that ticker.
And hit the ticker we go.
Bum,
Bum, bum, bum. From around the world, from Eric's computer to your ears, this is the news. What you got?
All right, it's a big week in wrestling this week, Brian. AEW Rampage starts tomorrow night, 10 p.m. on TNT, and they got a couple big matches already set up for us. Little something to draw us in. We got, in no particular order, Kenny Omega will be taking on Christian Cage. Christian Cage challenging for the Impact World Championship. We got Britt Baker defending her AEW Women's Championship against Red Velvet. And we've got Miro defending his TNT title against newcomer Fuego del Sol in an expected squash match. So we'll see how that goes. But just a couple matches on the card have been announced, and I'll definitely be tuning in to check out, see what they got in store for Rampage.
I have the DVR set to record, and I will check that out on Saturday morning or Sunday, something along those lines, as I will be busy on Friday night. But they didn't really give us that much of a card to really sink our teeth into and hold on to. The only possible swerve you see coming in a title change is maybe that Impact title. But is Britt really going to drop it on Rampage in her hometown?
Yeah, Britt's not dropping it. Miro's not dropping the TNT belt. Christian, it would be funny. It would be interesting to see him get the Impact title. He did hold the TNA Heavyweight Championship for a while back in the old Impact days. So it'd be kind of cool to see him back in that saddle again.
Yeah, that would be interesting. They've been crossing the borders with that. We had some crossover matches on this week of AEW Dynamite, so we'll discuss that shortly. So we'll see what they continue doing with this.
Right. And then in NXT news, big week over there for releases. Apparently Vince went on a rampage and he released a bunch of NXT. I was going to say stars. There's a couple stars on here, but other than that, we'll just say talent. NXT released Bobby Fish.
That was a big
Mercedes, one. Yeah, Bobby Fish and Mercedes Martinez were both pretty big. Bronson Reed, another big name.
Literally.
Yeah, humongous. And little names, Leon Ruff. He did have a belt for him, didn't he?
Yeah, didn't he do that North American Championship gimmick?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Little guy Leon. And then the lower card guys, we got Ari Sterling, Jake Atlas, Kona Reeves, Zechariah Smith, Asher Hale, Giant Zangier, Stefan Smith, and Desmond Troy all released by NXT this week.
There you go. What are we having for reasonings? Do we have anything released why we're cutting everybody and going bananas with this?
All right. So the meat and potatoes of what's been going around in the rumor and innuendo mill lately is that and Vince let Triple H do his thing, run NXT in the smaller guy indie style wrestling type style that everyone seems to be into these days. Vince let them run with that, and then they just lost horribly to AEW in those Wednesday night wars. So Vince said, enough of that jazz. We're going back to what made WWE famous. No more old guys. No more midgets. That's not me. That's Vince saying that. And yeah, they just want to get back to the roots. Guys who can come in and be box office smashes, and then big guys. And that's basically what brought WWE to the top in the 80s and 90s. And Vince wants to go back to that formula. So all these older guys and little guys got released, but contradicting that whole thing, apparently WWE is trying their damnedest to hold on to Adam Cole. Adam Cole's contract is already expired. Right now he's on a verbal contract through SummerSlam, and apparently WWE's been working their asses off to keep him around.
Yeah, like I was speaking about with somebody, that there's always that diamond in the rough. So there's always that one guy that they want to hold on to that might not fit that stereotype, if you will, with the big giant guys. This time it's Adam Cole. Previously, we've seen Shawn Michaels, who really isn't that small, but the guys that he rolled with made him look small. You had your Shawn Michaels, your Bret Harts. They weren't giant, enormous fellas. They weren't your Hogan bodybuilders. They weren't your Road Warriors. But you had some guys out there. And Adam Cole is the guy, the talk of the town. It would make a lot of news if he jumped ship to anywhere and just did anything else. That'd make a lot of news.
And since his contract's expired already, he would have no 90-day compete clause. So the day after SummerSlam, he could go appear on AEW if he wanted to. So, but apparently the rumor is WWE has offered him $1 million a year and a spot on SmackDown or Raw. And the problem I see with that is, even if they give Adam Cole a contract for $1 million a year, WWE always writes in that whole 90-day thing where basically they can end the contract whenever they want, fire Adam Cole whenever they want, and that would in turn put a new 90-day no compete clause on them. So the only way, even for $1 million, Adam Cole could sign that contract is if he 100% trusted Vince and WWE, because if they could really screw him over on that if they wanted to.
Yeah, they could get him to sign and then fire him, so that way they just have 90 days on him. And it would cost him probably just that 1-year contract of $1 million or whatever it was worth up to that point. That's some shady stuff. Now, if they're fighting that hard to keep him, or are they fighting that hard to screw him? I don't know. Only time.
Yeah, I don't know. I came up with that last theory myself while I was writing out the news. I
like it.
They could really screw him, because 90 days, I mean, it's not going to take all the steam and momentum off of a guy leaving a company, but it'll definitely ease it up a little bit.
100%. Now, I also heard rumor about NXTs. We're still chatting about it. You heard about this, that they're trying to take it back to developmental?
Actually, yeah, I did hear that. I didn't delve into it too much. But what did you hear about that?
I just hear that that it's going back. That was just all I heard, was that NXT is being rumored that going back to developmental. So I didn't know if they're taking away the pay-per-views and the shows off of the network. Is it going to drop off of USA? It seems like they did all this time to get a weekly show out of it. Seems like you'd want your talent still developing in a show, but do you broadcast that show on network cable, in developing?
I mean, I guess that goes back to what made them successful before. So in their most successful days, they had OVW and Jim Cornette and Danny Davis churning out talent. And they also had FCW once they were done with OVW down in Florida. And those were broadcast in very small television markets, but it kind of kept the future stars under wraps so that when they came into WWE, you hadn't watched them develop. They just kind of showed up and were immediately polished and ready to roll.
Yeah, so I wonder if they're just going to take it down to just being a hidden Peacock thing that would be under the WWE heading. That way the Uber fans are going to go search it out, and it's not just there on TV in your face. You know, they used to broadcast those old NXTs, but they were like on Hulu only, and they were, 45 minutes long or something like that. And you could find those FCWs on the internet and catch things, but you had to, again, be the guy to want to find it. It wasn't handed to you. So, be interesting. They took a lot of time and built up that NXT brand just to tear it down. And, it almost just seems like it's like Vince saying, damn it, Trips did it. He went and made a show that's a little better than mine. It's the NXT show's ruining the big show for pay-per-view weekends, and we got to go ahead and cut it away before it becomes its own thing.
See, I was kind of looking at it on the opposite end. I kind of took it as Vince said, I gave Triple H a chance, and he wanted to do this indie-style promotion, and it kind of flopped. So let's just scratch the whole thing. If he can't do it right, we're going back to my way.
You really think it flopped?
I'm going from the point of view that Vince is right. I think that it's successful, but it's not Vince McMahon successful. That being NXT.
Well,
and I think he's perfectly in the right to just go ahead and scrap it and go back to what he knows.
He's 100% in the right. That's not. I wouldn't say that he's wrong, but I don't know if I would say that it flopped. NXT flopped. They had a hell of a following. I mean, they were selling out their own pay-per-views and they were running their own shows that were, if you ask me, a lot of the times that they had the SummerSlams, SummerSlam weekend, and they would put when it was NXT on Saturday and then SummerSlam on Sunday, it was like, maybe it was just the hype that the big show, you got wrestling on Saturday night, so you've already taken the gusto out of the Sunday night. I don't know. But it always seemed like that NXT show was just better to me a lot of times. The stars were different. It was a spot. Guys like Finn Balor wanted to be there. Why would somebody want to go back there? You want to be, it's that, you're going there and getting attention and getting ring time. There was always the rumors online that the guys in the main roster were mad that they weren't getting TV time, but the NXT guys were getting all this TV time, but the NXT guys wanted main roster money. So it was a catch-22, cut or be cut.
Yeah, you could either be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond. And but yeah, don't get me wrong, they were definitely successful, but in Vince McMahon's eyes, 650,000 viewers a week, 700,000 viewers a week, that's chicken feed. That's not success to Vince McMahon.
Yeah, but it's a different world. It's not the 80s anymore. It's not the 90s, and people consume and devour content differently. So I don't know if Vince is up on that. But we'll, give me whatever. I'm still watching his product.
Hey, we shall see. Miro came out talking about how he's trying to become a better performer overall, and he is now taking acting classes. I have a quote from Miro here. I like Miro. I hated him when he first debuted, but he's definitely been growing on me, and he's one of my favorite performers in AEW now. And he revealed he's taking acting classes to make his promos better. And I got a quote, says, I'm mostly focused on wrestling, but the schedule is definitely lighter compared to before. I love acting because it's just a pretend thing. You just get out there and pretend a little bit. I did go to acting school because I thought it would help me in the ring. I feel like a lot of wrestlers don't do that. They don't work on their craft. Even if they've been wrestling for 2 or 3 years and make it on TV, they don't feel like they need to practice their in-ring skills or promo skills. It's the biggest mistake. You have to keep learning. You have to keep striving to learn more. Otherwise, if you think you know it all, you might as well hang it up. And I agree with Miro there. You have to constantly work to improve, and it looks like a lot of the guys nowadays, they just kind of get in their niche and they just stay there.
Now, I know you dog on Jericho, but look what all that everything that Jericho's done in and out of the ring to stay relevant for this long. You know, what he's doing in his career may not be the choices that we always are like, woohoo, but people still talking about him. He's still got a career going. You know, he did that improv show, I forget the name of those improv guys that he rolled with. It'll be on top of my tongue here in a minute. But he did that, you know, his music stuff. All this stuff changes how he reacts to crowds, how he handles crowds, and how he can talk in front of people. And it's been nothing but great for him. And same thing with Hogan. Hogan was always acting. He could bring that back. He could be, was he the greatest actor? No. He's a great wrestler, though. Great performer in the ring. So all those things that people do are great. And like you said, I think a lot of people get out of doing that, and then they look like idiots. They just get caught like, this is what works, and this is what I'll keep doing forever. So good for Miro.
Yeah. Just four toe pays every Wednesday night, and I'm good. I got people tweet me. But yeah, you always got to keep evolving. And like you said, Jericho and Hogan, perfect examples of that. Jericho now, not the greatest evolution, but sometimes you fall. Who knows? He'll probably reinvent himself on his 60th birthday.
I was just going to say, who knows what's next?
I know a lot of people out there can't stand Jim Cornette and his bitterness and his negativity, but definitely go check out last Saturday's Jim Cornette experience. There's no shit talking, no AEW trashing. It's just a tribute and stories about one of his best friends, Bobby Eaton from the Midnight Express. He even gives Tony Khan a positive shout out and a thank you. So that is one episode. If you're a wrestling buff who likes the history and wants to know road stories and all that, definitely go listen to last Saturday's Jim Cornette experience about Bobby Eaton.
That was a good one. I have not listened to it yet. You were telling me it's a few tidbits here and there, and you've piqued my interest. It's downloaded in my podcast app, and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to peep that out in the next couple days.
And it's also on YouTube, too, the full episode. So that's definitely a good listen. You get to see old Corny get a little teared up in that. On Monday Night Raw, they're starting to do some interesting things. I haven't got back to watching WWE on a regular basis, but this whole thing with Baron Corbin, I hated it at first because it was just so faked, so fake and contrived that a WWE superstar is broke, but they've committed to it, and Baron Corbin is just playing it dead on, letting his horseshoe hair grow out and stealing people's wallets, and they're playing that up on Twitter. And then now this thing with Elias. They did a vignette with Elias walking up to a campfire saying WWE stood for Walk with Elias, but Elias is dead, and throws his guitar into the fire. So that has kind of piqued my interest on what's next for Elias.
Well, that goes along back with the big guys thing. So Elias is a big guy. He's got the look. He's had the look. Now if he can do something. And the Walk with Elias thing was fun to yell at a live show. He'd make up his little funny songs. And then they just never really gave him anything after that. Hopefully now he can put some of that big, giant talent that he has to work.
Right. I never cared about him because you never really got to see what he could do. He was just more focused on being a goof. Speaking of goofs, Ric Flair is teasing a return.
A return as in the ring?
A return match he's teasing. Ric Flair is continuing to fuel the rumors and speculation about a return to the ring at age 72. Ric Flair tweeted, "I will never retire. Woo!" alongside a video of a promo from WWE Raw in 2007, during which he said, "I have to announce to you that I will never retire. I will only retire when I'm dead in this ring. Over my dead body. I've got too much juice left. Woo! I'm still the nature boy."
Well, clearly it's not with WWE.
No, but somebody will clear a 72-year-old man. Mike Jackson was that guy. He's a legend from like the 70s and 80s. And I want to say he was 75, 76 last year, and he still did a match. I think he did it over an Impact.
Oh, yeah, that goofy guy from like Puerto Rico or something, right?
I don't know. His name's just Mike Jackson, and he killed it in one of them matches.
I remember some old guy. Maybe I was thinking of getting my guys crossed up, but I remember what you're talking about. The only Mike Jackson I know, he's also passed away. So, old Michael Jackson.
No, this guy's still kicking. CM Punk is denying rumors of him going to AEW. You and I both saw this video of this interview, and we both feel like he's working us pretty hard. We both know CM Punk is a serial bullshitter, and this felt like bullshit, but he said the following during this interview pertaining to his rumored appearance on AEW in Chicago. He says, I think I might actually be doing a screening. This isn't confirmed yet, so I probably shouldn't blast this out everywhere, but we're talking about doing a screening of episode 3 of Heels at an AMC in Chicago, and that's one of the dates that's been proposed, so I hope to see everyone there. CM Punk commented on the Best in the World line made by Darby Allin by saying, best in the world? That could be anybody. That's Daniel Bryan to me, right?
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
He went with, that's Brian, right? That's Brian. That's Brian. Everybody knows he's talking about Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson, as he's known on the independent circuit and will be known again sometime shortly soon, I can only imagine, on the independent circuit.
So, yeah, CM Punk, we think he's full of shit, and we think he's going to be on AEW. I think that's something you and I both agree on.
Yeah. He's a serial bullshitter. He's too cool for the room, you know. No, I'm not going to be there. Why would I be there? I hate that show. I've never watched it. I didn't even know there was wrestling. There's wrestling on? Never even heard of wrestling. Shut up.
Well, we got some sad news. Nasty Boys star Brian Knobbs has been hospitalized. He's had some gastrointestinal issues, and his family and friends have launched a GoFundMe to help pay for Brian Knobbs' hospital bills. We all know 80s wrestlers, especially mid-carders like the Nasty Boys. A lot of them don't have too much money left. So
see, the Nasty Boys throws me on not having any money. Like, they worked from 1979 with AWA until WCW closed. Brian Knobbs worked. I mean, he ran that hardcore division. He walks around with a limp now because it was in that hardcore division and helped make that famous through WCW. But until they closed, and then did a small stint in TNA for a minute, everything they did in Japan, like, just never saved a nickel, never put nothing away. Like, he had to have been making, shit. He's best friends with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's paid a lot of hospital bills in his time. He's never really been in the greatest shape, and he's put himself through some hell. So I don't know. Brian Knobbs really playing up that Baron Corbin gimmick to a T.
I guess that one just throws me. I mean, they worked for a solid, 25, 30 years.
Yeah. But yeah, bummer news. Go over there, check out that GoFundMe for Brian Knobbs. I don't have the link, so just Google it. And Keith Lee has finally broke the silence on why he was off TV for so long. Turns out back in January, he contracted COVID-19. He ended up with an infection that caused inflammation in his heart, and he was in danger of dying.
Oh.
His girlfriend, Mia Yim, pulled out of the Women's Royal Rumble to take care of him, and he was instructed to not get into any physical activity for months. Lee has since been able to return to the ring as the inflammation around his heart has settled. So, yeah, that was Keith Lee coming a lot closer to death than any of us have ever experienced.
Yeah, I heard that he had contracted COVID-19. It was rumored that Mia Yim had contracted it as well, but then she was back around on TV, and they just kept that real. They didn't even write a storyline of it, or you know what I'm saying, off of it, just like that he was hurt. Like, they just said Keith Lee's gone. Just everybody sat there wondering. And then he kind of came back for a minute, and I haven't heard much from him yet, too much. But I'm glad he's back and healthy. Nobody wants anybody sick and dying.
Right. And hopefully he gets into the swing of things of the way Vince wants to run WWE now. Maybe they could teach him how to be a good heel, how to actually get some anger instead of sounding like a damn insurance salesman every time he talks. But speaking of big men from WWE, recently released Bronson Reed apparently wants to get into AEW. He wants a piece of Miro.
I mean, why
Bronson
wouldn't he?
Reed. What's that?
I said, why wouldn't he want in there? You go make some money. God bless him.
So, yeah, he's already shooting promos on Miro through Twitter. He tweeted out each word on its own line. Grinding and violence, every match, every moment is reality, of course. And if you spell out the first letter of each line, it spells out, give me Miro.
Well, look at that. Isn't he just cryptic?
He's just getting super creative.
That crazy bastard. I mean, be two big men. If they get in there and actually put in some work on each other, it could be entertaining. But, it could be also AEW'd up.
Yeah. So we shall see. But Bronson Reed, I think, would be a good fit over in AEW.
That's on our next shirt.
Polished big men over there.
That's on our next shirt. We shall see. It's our famous. Besides getting lost in the sauce, we shall see.
There you go. You can make it one shirt for 1.5 times price. We shall see if you get lost in the sauce. And my final story is a little tidbit on Dynamite. We gave them a positive shout out last week. 4 weeks in a row, they put over 1 million butts in the seats in TV land watching their show. This week, they dipped below 1 million, Brian. Only 979,000 viewers tuned in this week to watch AEW, and that's kind of what we pointed out. We pointed out that the past 4 weeks had been gimmicked up with either a special free show or a big star making a debut or a special appearance from somebody. This was pretty much just a regular ass show, and they dipped below 1 million. So who knows where they're going to go? I don't know how much special event shit they can pull out of their ass to keep it above 1 million, but they're definitely going to try.
Yeah, they've got the ace in the hole of CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and then maybe Bray Wyatt and that nonsense of anything that comes about with that. But other than that, they're running out of the aces.
Right. They can definitely draw them out for a long time and keep it over 1 million. But
here's a tip that I could think that might help them come up. Stop giving everything away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is the lineup the way the lineup is? They just release these images on Instagram and Facebook and such, and they're like, tonight's show. And it's just, the old standard, like, here I am, if you're listening to the audio version, I'm posing like I'm going to fight, and Eric's looking at me the other way, and here we are, we're going to wrestle. But why? Why do I care? What could happen? It's all not what could happen. This is what's going to happen. And if you look at that lineup, sometimes you go, well, all right, I'll catch that later. I'll read that on the internet.
And in my opinion, also, they play up the fakeness of pro wrestling too much. They assume because we all know it's a work that we need the fact that it's all fake, and we need all the behind the scenes footage and behind the scenes stories shoved down our throats. What's it been, 2 weeks since Chris Jericho fought?
Nick Gage.
Shit. Yeah, 2 weeks since Chris Jericho fought
Nick Gage.
Nick Gage in that garbage death match. And Jericho just went right on the internet. Yeah, that was all my idea. I wanted to do it. I just wanted to show versatility, because who would think that they would see Chris Jericho in the death match? So that's why I did it, and I set it up, and I booked the entire match. We don't want to know that shit. We we want to suspend disbelief and think that MJF forced you into a match with a fucking homicidal maniac.
Yeah. Why, I use the term, I use this example quite a bit. The Walking Dead, we know the zombies aren't real. So I really don't want to know a bunch of nonsense about the show. I know it's not real. I suspend the disbelief and I watch it. But that's where, like, the Talking Dead shows and all those things that follow these types of shows just take it away from you. Don't sit there and tell me. Just let it be and let it exist and let people ponder on it and let people discuss it. That keeps the discussion going. It really kills the discussion by going on his Twitter or on his YouTube or wherever he's releasing these comments and saying what happened. Let people ponder on it. Why is Nick Gage coming back? They never even teased Nick Gage's music again. Like, you have this promo pack put together, tease the thing and play it and use social media for something other than just like, the show's over, let's talk about the show. Like, I want it to create something, right? Just keep creating out of it. They just kill it.
Well, yeah, to touch on one of your points there, if you keep your fucking mouth shut, it keeps people talking about it, even smarks like us. So just using the Nick Gage match as a example here, it's something for us to talk about. Whose idea was that? Who's Nick Gage friends with? Was Tony Khan really a fan of death matches, so he called Nick Gage? Or, did Moxley kind of work the politics to get Nick Gage on TV? So it was something for us to talk about, and Chris Jericho just takes it all away. It was all my idea, blah, 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 and this is why I did it. This is how I did it. I booked every move of the match and blah, blah, blah. And now it's just like, okay, cool. We're never going to talk about that again. Who gives a shit?
Right. He could have went on and promoted it and cut a promo about it. Even CM Punk, the way that he is saying that he's not going to be there, you still feel that layer of professional wrestling bullshit in there. So you're going, I still don't believe him. But when Jericho just comes on and he's like, hi, I'm Chris Irvine, and I'm here to tell you how the magic is done. You're like, well, who gives a shit now? Why am I going to talk about it?
Right. Do you want to see David Copperfield make the Statue of Liberty disappear and then right afterwards go, I'm just kidding, guys. It's right over there.
Tee-hee.
No, we know the shit's fake, but we want to ponder on how you did it and why you did it. So, yeah, Chris Irvine, stick it up your hockey playing ass.
Shut the fuck up. All right. Any other? Where are we at? What are we talking about? Are we still in news?
Yeah. Can't you see my background, Brian?
Oh, my God.
We're still in the news, baby.
No. We took way off there.
News is a wrap. Go ahead and hit the ticker so I can switch my background.
News is a wrap. That's it. Chris Jericho talks too much. And CM Punk is probably going to AEW. That's our guess. Keep watching to see what happens. And now, time for our fun. Oh, caught you slipping. Caught you slipping. We were still in the news there for an eighth of a second. It's time for a little game we like to call Overrated, Underrated. This time, we're going to have a little fun, talk about something maybe a little different. We're just going to go this Overrated, Underrated. We're just going to base it on their theme songs.
I can dig it. For some reason, when you said we're going something a little different, I don't know why I'm telling you this because it's probably going to be a future idea now. Wrestling pets. So we've got Coco Beware's bird.
Jake the Snake. Ricky the Dragon had that like Komodo dragon he carried to the ring. The British Bulldogs.
Had Matilda.
Yeah, there was a couple. There's Jake with the python and Jake with the cobra.
Oh, which one's more overrated?
Which one is more overrated? All right, here we go. Theme songs. Let's start out first with The Macho Man. Overrated or underrated? The Macho Man's theme song in WWE.
I think Pomp and Circumstance is underrated. It worked for Macho Man to a T. I know we all had it at our graduation ceremonies, but it almost feels like it was written more for the Macho Man to walk down to the ring than it was for us to walk up a ramp and get our diploma. So, yeah, no matter how simple you try to make Macho Man's theme song sound, Pomp and Circumstance was perfect for him. So it is underrated.
Let's go with overrated or underrated in the theme song. we've got Shawn Michaels and Sexy Boy. But first, let's discuss Sensational Sherry singing it. Overrated or underrated?
All right. Man.
And then we'll discuss Shawn singing it.
So I think overall, I'm gonna have to say underrated
For Sherry?
because for them both.
For 'em
But
both.
yeah, definitely with Sherry. Because it just fit. Sensational Sherry and Shawn Michaels, the heel, the cocky asshole heel, just fit together like a glove. And I don't know, when it comes to performers actually being the talent on the songs and they actually pull it off, and the pops that song got, no matter who was behind it, no matter if even Kurt Angle was singing it about a sexy Kurt, that song just gets enormous pops every time it comes down.
There you go. Sticking in the theme of Shawn Michaels, overrated, underrated, the DX theme song. Degeneration!
Yeah. I don't know, because I really didn't like DX's song. Too much like electronica type shit, kind of the same way with Triple H's wow, 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 wow. The distorted guitars and all that. I really didn't like it. But again, you had Jim Johnston, or I believe that was his name, writing the themes in that one, and almost every song that he made for a superstar, he knocked it out of the park. So as much as I didn't really care for DX's theme song, that one's going to be underrated too.
All right. Let's jump over to WCW for a second and say the NWO theme song. How you feeling about the NWO theme song? And then I got a part 2 to that with Hulk Hogan's NWO theme song of Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix.
Man, I really want to go in the opposite direction of myself here, but I just can't. NWO's is underrated because it is so simple that it's so simple that it shouldn't really have been anything humongous. But that's another one. As simple as it was, its connection to NWO, 25 years later, you hear NWO's theme come on and you get goosebumps. You know something big's going to happen. So underrated on NWO.
I hear Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix come on the radio, and I just think Hogan's coming out.
And that's going to be underrated too, because Hogan completely took that song away from Jimi Hendrix. Anyone who watched wrestling ever thinks Hulk Hogan before Jimi Hendrix when they hear Voodoo Child come on, even if they're not watching wrestling, even if they're just scanning through Spotify, you're like, what the hell are they putting wrestling theme songs on here for?
And then the NWO went and jumped the shark with the Wolfpack theme song, where they had that rap version of the Wolfpack. Nobody, I don't even know the word. I just remember the howl in the beginning. That one was overrated. We'll overrate the NWO
Finally.
Wolfpack.
Completely overrated. They tried too hard for that one, and anyone who busts a nut when that song comes on is a fucking mark and needs to be kicked out of the arena and overrated.
Well, we can't talk about theme songs. We can't talk about Hulk Hogan without I Am a Real American. Overrated or underrated?
That one, I think, is overrated.
We got another one.
Finally. That song is so fucking corny. It does make you think of Hogan anytime you hear it, but
it more makes me
the
think of
song
patriotic.
stinks, man.
It more makes me think of patriotic pride.
Right. And it just, makes me think of giant pickup trucks with American flags on the back of it when I hear it almost nowadays. But fun fact, Hogan went through a few themes before he settled on I Am a Real American. He was using his theme from Rocky 3 when he was Thunder Lips for a minute. It's escaping me what exact song that was, But then he also, for a hot minute, it didn't stick, was using the song "I Wanna Be a Hulkamaniac." Have fun with my family and friends.
We got to stop singing before we get flagged on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's right. My voice might match the cadence too much. But yeah, so those didn't stick. Real American stuck, but it stinks.
But it stinks. And a bonus one just for fun, Vince McMahon, no chance in hell, overrated or underrated?
You know, we're ending with another overrated. That song was so fucking dumb. No chance. And here's a fun fact about that one.
I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say.
If you had the Titantron and you had the wrestlers with little metal plates on their feet and you could put them on the Titantron, if you were lucky enough to get a Vince McMahon action figure, the theme song was "No Chance. No chance, no chance."
They didn't want the little kids hearing "No chance in hell," so they took it away. No chance, no chance, no chance.
So No Chance stunk. Overrated.
No chance stunk. There you go. Overrated, underrated theme songs edition. Didn't know if we were actually going to get any overrated this week, but we got some finally at the end. And now we shall move on and tear apart the AEW weekly show, as we like to discuss. And with snap of our fingers, we are in the Dynamite Zone.
We are in the Dino Zone. Actually, no sign of the Dino this week.
Oh, he was floating around.
Oh, he did come out for a
twice.
Minute. Yeah. Never mind.
Never mind.
He's so forgettable. But anyway, this episode of AEW Dynamite, we are in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of Britt Baker, DMD. But as Britt and me like to call it, because we're pals, we like to call it Britsburg.
Britsburg, PA, going down. This was a sold-out crowd. If it wasn't sold out, they were pretty damn well sold out. They were packed to the gills in there.
Definitely, and a bunch of bakers in the audience there. So many yellow terrible towels with DMD on them. But we kicked the show off with an MJF pre-tape, cutting a promo on Jericho. Nothing too special, just the same things we've been hearing for the past 4 weeks. But then we move on to our first match. Surprise, surprise. Our first match features the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Because as I've stated before, they got to make sure they get their shit in. Their flips, their dives, their double hurricanrana backflip tope, Sua judos. They got to make sure they get their bullshit in before anyone else does, so that they get all the pops. But they are taking on Dante Martin from Top Flight, and then the Seidel brothers, Matt and Mike.
Cool. This is another one. Why? This isn't squash match era anymore. This isn't Saturday morning, Sunday morning WWF Superstars, or what WWF Challenge. This is AEW. This is your weekly show. This needs to be, give me something I can sink my teeth into. Carry a storyline over in a match. Mix some things up. Give me the Young Bucks with some, just for the love of God, have some consistency. Sorry. Continue.
All right. So, yeah, there's more meat to this to point to pretty much what you're saying. Tony Khan is very impressionable. And I think his ears are way too open to the EVPs. And I am glad that the crowds are back for this reason. Matt and Mike Seidel, for some reason, Tony Khan wants to push them like they're top-level superstars just because Evan Bourne was a star in WWE for a hot minute.
We use that term loosely.
Right. But this AEW crowd really let Tony Khan know the truth. You could hear a fucking pin drop in that arena when the Seidel brothers came out. Nobody gave a shit.
This is developmental match. That's developmental. Not Evan Bourne's not developmental, but his brother is.
Right.
Top flight guy. Yeah, he is.
He's only 19 years old. There's no way he's ready for primetime TV right now. I don't care how far ahead of the game he is.
You can put Evan Bourne out there. He can be used to bring up some guys. I get maybe the idea of placing them. We'll go back 25 years and go 30 years, whatever it's been, and say, when they took Razor and put him with a 1-2-3 kid, probably made sense. Let's put this young guy with this new guy. We'll bring them up together. We'll match them up. We'll pair them up. We'll teach the kid how to go, and we'll move along. It makes sense. You can do it right, but you just put the brothers together, but they never get to promo. They never get to build to anything. It's just they're in random matches. It's go backstage, grab some names out of the hat, and see who you're facing, and then don't get any offense in and look like a bunch of shitheads.
And I think the Jacksons want to work with the Seidel's because they are very athletic and they can do the gymnastic moves and they can keep up with the Young Bucks. So they're simply using them as tools to get their shit over. They know they can do more flips and dives and cartwheels with the Seidel's than they could with an FTR. And in any sense, they're kind of taking advantage of the Seidel brothers here. They're not letting them develop behind the scenes to get better, especially Mike Seidel. They're putting them right on primetime TV. And just like you said, they can't get into any good storylines. They can't cut any promos. They're not ready for that yet. They're just out there as a couple of stooges for the Young Bucks to play around with.
That's it. And so if that's what they're going to be, then be that, and don't have the commentators try and put them over.
Precisely. That just makes everything so much worse. The commentators put the Seidel brothers over like they're the next big thing. And the same thing with Dante Martin. Again, to reiterate, he's 19. And I'm not calling Dante Martin Shawn Michaels by any means. But if you would have put Shawn Michaels, 19-year-old Shawn Michaels, on WWE television, he would have got shit right in his mouth, and he would have just been kicked right out the back door. As talented as he was at 19, he just wasn't ready. You're not ready when you're that young.
And that's the problem that they're running into in AEW, is that there is no developmental. It's just like, hey, we like this guy from the indies, let's grab him, he's a good star, young guy, let's bring him up. But where do you bring him up? I guess you develop on your YouTube show.
Right. Don't develop on TV with 1 million people watching, because a decent chunk, even if a 1% of that chunk was like, this show sucks, I'm not watching it anymore because they're putting a bunch of goofs that should be wrestling in a high school gym, your audience is eventually going to diminish.
Right, and we're seeing that. So we continue.
So yeah, we can let's get into the synopsis of this match here. The Seidels, Matt and Mike, take turns with Matt Jackson. In the beginning of this thing, we actually got more wrestling moves than gymnastics. So it started off sort of interesting, but that was short-lived. The Seidels and Dante get the Elite outside of the ring. We get a triple baseball slide from the babyfaces. While the Elite wait patiently to take it, they waited damn near an eternity to take this triple baseball slide. And then we get a dive from Dante that took forever, and he hit all 3 members of the Elite who just happened to be standing on the outside. And we're in the first 2 minutes of this thing, and it's already just contrived, put together. Everyone's working together. We're going to stand in one spot and wait 45 seconds for Dante to get his ass balanced on the top rope. It's just immediately into the fake shit.
Yeah, the angle that I would go with the Elite is different than the way they're going with it. Be the heels. I'm keeping that the same. But be better. Be the Elite. Be Elite, right? That's what they're about. So in that triple baseball slide, to bring this back all home here to see where I'm going with this, all three of them, and then all three of them step to the side, and nobody gets hit because then they're doing the old tap of the brain, right? Hey, we're the elite. What's up? Then they beat them up. The elite shouldn't be cheating. The elite shouldn't be getting hit by day one moves. They shouldn't be getting hit by shoulder blocks. They should be outsmarting and eliting these guys. But that's not really how they're handling it.
No, a true elite tag team or a triple tag team, whatever, isn't going to stand there and take a triple baseball slide and then immediately after stand there another 30 or 40 seconds so that the babyface can do a balancing act before he does a flip onto all three of them. That's not an elite level tag team. That's the Three Stooges, Larry, Curly, and Moe, just standing around waiting to get hit in the face.
Yeah, they just need to be elite. You're going to bury him anyways. So bury him anyways. Just, do it right. They're not getting shit in on you anywho, so fuck them.
All right, then we get some more weird shit. So the elite are healing it up. They're getting plenty of heat by isolating Mike Seidel. They kept Mike Seidel by himself forever and taking turns. And the thing is, with a tag team that people cared about, they would actually get some heat because the babyface would be getting sympathy in turn. Like I said before, nobody gives a shit about the Seidel brothers, especially Mike. So isolating him and trying to get heat on Mike Seidel, it's a lost cause.
Lost cause. Nobody gives a shit. And just can keep saying the same thing over and over again. So let's keep moving.
Right. Let's get into some more goofball spots here, talking about repeating ourselves. Matt Jackson, at this point, holds Mike Seidel up in some sort of kinky wheelbarrow position from behind so that he can get a face buster from Nick Jackson. Seidel immediately after this face buster pops right up front in the same wheelbarrow position for a Kataro crusher. And this isn't suspending disbelief at this point. There is literally no way Mike Seidel can be in a position with his legs around Matt Jackson's waist, facing down, but his body is at a 45-degree angle facing up. There's no way he can be in that position unless he's holding himself up. So he's just holding himself up for Kataro crushers and face busters. And it's fucking stupid. And he has to no-sell a face buster so he can take a Kataro crusher. It's just, like we said before, checklist of spots, one after the other.
Boom,
That's all
boom,
we're doing.
Boom, boom. There's a difference when you realize that it's spots when you're younger. And I think I've used this example before, but the slingshot, where you slingshot somebody. Shawn Michaels famous for taking this. Ric Flair, guys like that would take the slingshot move over the top rope in the turnbuckle. The first time you go to do it to your brother or your friend or have them do it to you, it's like you get them up in that move, you throw yourself back, and boom, take a flat back, and your buddy does not fly across the living room in a giant slingshot because you realized, oh, wait a minute, you have to stay stiff and then kind of jump with it as well. And then you start to go, huh. But at least you were sold. Then you start to realize this thing was kind of put together by two guys, right? But at least you were sold in that move. It kind of looked real in the moment. When you have to hold yourself up, you're going, stop holding yourself up. Stop holding. Even at 5, my kids would be like, well, why is he doing that? Why doesn't he just roll up into a ball and lay down and get his head out of the way?
Right. I'm no physics genius. I'm not Albert Einstein by any means. But I know if somebody is holding you by your thighs, there's no way, and your waist has a hinge on it, so you can go up and down. There's no way your body is maintained in an erect position. The slingshot at least looks like it might work.
Right. But it's not so in your face that it's not how it's going down. There's a difference.
Right. Matt Seidel actually gets a hot tag and makes a bit of a comeback. He fights for a while and tags Dante into another hot tag. Dante really starts going off with the gymnastics. Again, Top Flight, another Cirque du Soleil team. And this crowd came to see Cirque de Bullshit. And god damn it, they're gonna get it with this match. I'm really okay. So we see a build of hope through my emotions every episode when they sign when Miro actually becomes what he needs to become, when they sign an FTR, when they sign a Christian Cage, you see hope that they might bring back some real wrestling and not just contrived gymnastics. But then we get the crowd, and every single person in there is just screaming their head off and cheering and crying and celebrating like they won the lottery because Dante Young or whatever
Dante's
is
Peak.
Dante's doing flips and somersaults and ninja kicks and backflips, and the crowd is just going bananas. And it's like, well, fuck. I guess that's what they want. It's just trying to get them to realize they could have a much wider audience if they brought some realism into it. Make the circus shit a like a special. You know what I'm saying? Like, not in every single match. Do some circus shit every third match, or hell, every other match.
I mean, that's the way it was.
The crowd is just feeding them. This is all they want to see.
That's the way it was back old school, right? It was nobody did the super kick. That was Sean's. Nobody did the super kick. We seen those papers released where nobody was allowed to do the boo yeah thing, right? We get into a fight and you punch boo yeah, boo yeah, boo, back and forth, because that's Cena's thing.
Right.
Even that was pretty current. So just keeping it out, like, sorry, man, you better change up that finish. Your boys are doing no cannonballs. That's Kevin Owens' thing. Like, let these things be these people's things, but everybody's diving, everybody's flipping. Who gives a shit? I've seen it.
Right, and that's for fans and critics like you and me here. We see it, and we know, because we have a logical brain, that if we see three tope suicidas in every match on a card for a 2-hour show, by match 3, by match 4, there's nothing special about it. It's the same as a hammerlock, you know. But this crowd is just feeding it. They pop for every tope suicida, whether it's number 1 or number 100. They're popping for it, and it's like, well, hell, you kind of can't blame the booker when the audience response is just feeding you positivity like that.
Yeah, when it works, right? Keep doing it. Keep the crowd happy and move on. We are not the majority in this, Eric. We are the minority.
Right, and it's just trying to get them to understand that you're not trying to play to the 15,000 people in the audience. That might be a little generous, but you're not trying to play to just them because you get a pop. There's 350 million people in the United States who have access to TV. You're trying to get a chunk of some of them to watch and spend money too, but they're just way too focused on that dedicated hardcore audience that's gonna be in the arena for the shows.
Yeah. The idea can work. You can build that following and pick up people. It's going to be the hard way. It's going to be the long way. I think sometimes you get a skewed version of yourself, because no matter what you do, you're hardcore. You've only made a hardcore fan, so then everything you do is always right. But is it right?
Right.
So it's different. It was like the ECW way, right? They kind of ate themselves alive. The ECW was building themselves up. Paul Heyman was building this up, and it was creating something, a different, an alternative, a new thing. But what they did was it was like drugs, if you will. It started out with a kid in junior high smoking a cigarette, then some weed, then he's doing coke, then he's got to do heroin. Now he's mainlining gasoline in his nose. Now he's got to, chase a crocodile to get high. It's like everything had to become more. And that just collapsed in, besides a lot of other things, started to collapse in on itself. They had nowhere else to go.
And that works in so many aspects too, more and more and more. And that's why you're seeing so many injuries. Because, well, hell, 13 people did dives before my match. Now I got to dive off of a 35-foot ladder through a pane of glass and into a shark's mouth. Like they're just going way above and beyond, and they're hurting themselves doing it. But one more point, and I promise I'll wrap this thing up. So I guess the way I kind of look at how AEW is booking their shows is, say I have a whole show about how much chocolate cake fucking sucks. Now, the only people who come to my shows are fucking diabetics who don't eat sugar. So they're like, all 20,000 of them are like, yeah, fuck chocolate cake. It sucks. Frosting's terrible. Duncan Hines and Sarah Lee can suck my dick. Chocolate cake sucks. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to keep saying chocolate cake sucks. Well, there's 350 million other people, and I would say a lot more than 20,000 of them people love chocolate cake. So maybe if I'm putting it on TV, I can sprinkle a little, at least a cupcake here and there, to draw in those other people who might like a little bit of sugar in their diet.
And that's where FTR has such the potential, because they're demanding to be different and
they're demanding to be the cupcake.
They're demanding to be classic inside of, traditional inside of untradition, if you will. So they have the possibility, if they're allowed and granted the possibility. We'll see. Want to continue on with this match?
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. I promise. I'm already getting hoarse, and we're one match in. So this comeback by Dante is short-lived because the Elite get a flurry of moves in, topped off with an Omega, Hushi, Kuroshi, Boot, Scoot, and Boogie on Dante there. Dante keeps reversing Kenny Omega's finishers one after the other. I think he did 3 or 4 in a row. And that just makes your Elite heel champion, Kenny Omega, look like a fucking doofus. And then after Dante reverses 45 of his moves, the Elite finally hit a 3-way V trigger, and they get the pin, and they win anyway. So it's like they made Kenny Omega look like a fucking idiot for no reason.
Yeah, that was weird. I didn't like that they had him countering these moves. And then it was just the classic, like, oh, look at him. He outsmarted me, and Kenny's overselling it. And then, out of nowhere, he gives him a V-trigger, and then they do a triple V-trigger. It's like, well, if you just had, again, you've had that move that's so devastating, why'd you fucking dance with this little kid anyways? Like, why did you let this happen anyways? Like, why would you? That's like wrestling a 5-year-old and letting them actually win until you realize, wait a minute. I weigh 3 times as much as this kid, and you pick him up and throw him across the room. Like, if you want to just beat him, if you just want to beat him up, beat him up. What are you waiting for? Why sit there and you just look goofy? Why make yourself look goofy? I thought it was a strange finish. You're gonna bury him anyways, as I stated earlier in the match. So just come out and bury him and look amazing, and then leave. Why give him anything?
Right. You make yourself look like an idiot in kind of a half-ass effort to get Dante over. But it in reality, letting Dante reverse a few of your moves doesn't help him at all, because you just made him eat shit right in front of everybody. Right. So it meant nothing. It was just bad all around. Bad for Dante, bad for Omega. Bucks came out looking pretty good besides those first couple spots. But yeah, Bucks are always going to make sure they look good.
Look good.
That's what they care about. Number one.
The Bucks got to pose.
Right. We get Don Callis in the ring, and he starts cutting a promo, but he is immediately interrupted by Christian Cage. Callis points out that Christian is outnumbered, but out come the Jurassic Express to join Christian Cage. No Glizzy Gobbler, Marco Stunt this week. We immediately go to commercial, and while Jurassic Express's music is playing, so I imagine TNT has some long-ass commercials. For this 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I imagine they're just going to be playing Jungle Boy's theme and letting the audience sing, oh,
yeah,
Tarzan boy.
So one, So I'm going to rewind back a minute.
Okay.
During that match, just for a second, for what we're talking about, your boy, Excrement, states that he was told by Tony Khan that next week that they're going to have that match, or no, I'm sorry, at All In, they're going to have that match with Christian Cage taking on Kenny Omega, because he's the #1 contender, and that's at All Out, I believe. So he gives it away. They give that away. Then they do this terrible commercial break, and then they come back and tell us it all again. I already knew they did come together with a little bit of a surprise out of the whole thing, but they start talking about he's going to face him at All Out, and then Kenny looks surprised. Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? The Excrement just told us during your match that it was happening. He knew. You didn't know? That sucked.
Apparently, the Elite, even in their EVP positions, are being left out of the loop.
But why? Yeah, go ahead. We'll talk about this as we go.
Interesting thing here. While Don Callis is trying to cut a promo here, the entire crowd is just chanting CM Punk.
Yes,
so that's always good.
100% happening.
Christian calls Don Callis a carny piece of shit, and we're one match into the show, and we're already 2 shits in. We got a bunch of potty mouths going on this episode. There's a lot of shit bombs being dropped.
And then changed it to a jag-off because they are in PA, so you got to change that.
That's right. You're a carny jag-off. Christian will fight Kenny Omega Friday night on Rampage for the Impact title.
Cool.
And then we're back.
Yeah, I just going to say that's the... Again, back to what I was discussing, how the Elite should be acting. If they're so elite, nobody, they should bury people like that, not even fear them. Like, all right, cool, I'll face you. Do you know who I am? I'm Kenny Omega. But he gets mad. You don't tell me what to do. I'm not gonna. It's Christian Cage. You should be shitting on him.
Right.
This has been your company for 2 years. You've been running roughshod, Kenny. You were a tag team champion. You are now the world champion. You are Kenny Omega of the Elite. Fine, you want to fight me? Fight me. Like, you better bring your A game. You better bring all your, like, I'm the Elite. We're the Elite. Like, but it's not. He freaks out and panics. And now Christian Cage looks like he has the one up.
That's why Omega's been in the business quite a while, but it's instances like that where you know he's still a little green because he can't figure out which direction he wants to go. It's the same way in the ring when his feet just bounce. He gets happy feet because he's not sure what to do with them or where to go. It's the same thing with his gimmick here, his heel gimmick. He can't figure out if he wants to be cocky Mr. Perfect or if he wants to be chicken shit heel like a Bobby Heenan or a Jim Cornette.
Sure.
You know, he's trying to play cocky but chicken shit at the same time, and you can't mix those two things.
Like, go back to cocky. He should be, like, watching everything Shawn Michaels did from, like, WrestleMania 9 until yesterday. Like, he should be out there, like, remember Shawn come out and he'd be chewing that gum and he'd be fixing his hair in the thing. He could care less about his opponent. He'd be looking in the title, looking in a mirror, you know, making Sherry pose. Is anything else but his opponent. He could have cared less. It was DX Shawn. Come on, you want to fight me, Brett? Let's go, Brett. I'll fight you. Like, anywhere. Like, it was just anything. And it would work, but they're doing it some weird hybrid chicken cocky. Some cocky chicken.
We got some cocky chicken, we got some
shit.
sriracha going on with the old cock sauce. We get a Malachi Black pre-tape, and his promo just gives you chills because he is so committed and you believe every word he says, and he feels so evil that even a pre-tape with a guy like Malachi Black here, WWE really held him back because right here, he's only been in AEW a few weeks here, and this promo was enough to like give me hope that we can actually get out of the goofiness for here and there and actually get some real emotional, like we can get some promos and some acting and some gimmicks that really bring real emotion out of people instead of everything just being doink versus dink and a balloon on a pole match. It's
The only
everything don't have to be goofy. We can stir up some real emotions of fear, anger, happiness. Real emotions can be stirred up with people like Malachi Black.
the only thing that I fear is that they really make him come out to be like a Kane character from the early 90s, mid 90s, where he's like can throw fire and he becomes so demonized that he can do these things, and not just a dark kind of weird guy. Just let him be the dark weird guy who talks eloquently and he keeps to himself, and he dresses nice, but he's weird, but he's in your face and aggressive, but he'll kick you in the head, and he just sits Indian style, crisscross applesauce in the middle of the ring and just, runs with things. So I think they just need to keep him as a real character and not gimmick it out. I have a fear that AEW could gimmick it out, and then it's going to ruin it.
He's perfect the way he's playing it right now. Just stick with this, Malachi Black, and to the moon.
To the moon.
We get a Miro pre-tape, and this one's nothing really special. Miro's been cutting great promos, and I like this gimmick he has, but just the meat and potatoes is this one, is he's going to be fighting Salsa del Sol on Rampage there in a squash match.
The best is if he just called it that. Like, he comes out, he's like, they give me this. Who is this? Piece of trash.
Right.
Continue on.
All right. We've got Jerry Garcia coming out with 2.0 versus Darby Allin with his grandpa Sting. I really don't know his first name. I just wrote Garcia, so I'm like, we're calling him Jerry.
Jerry Garcia. This thing, the instant that I heard it was another trios match, I threw my hands up and said, what are we doing?
No, this one's not a trios, Brian.
Oh, this one wasn't a trio?
This is just Jerry Garcia versus Darby Allin.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
We just got the dickheads on the outside.
Maybe that. I thought, for some reason, I thought they said it was a trios match. I'm trying to remember what the hell I watched yesterday. I was just mad. I thought it was a trios match, and I stopped paying attention for a few minutes.
But this is another one that really brings out irritation. It makes my fucking skin itch, because this Garcia kid, I don't know anything about him. He might have been the biggest thing on the indies, but to me, he's just a tube sock wearing turd burglar. And the kid can work. He's pretty smooth in the ring with Darby Allin with the chain wrestling and whatnot. But the fact that Darby Allin, who's supposed to be near the top, he was a reigning TNT champion for a very long time, and they put him in main events constantly, and he is having such a hard time with Jerry Garcia here.
Yes.
And Garcia is controlling most of this match, and it's like, why is one of your top level talents having such a hard time with essentially a job guy?
Yes, again, we're squashing out here. We're confusing everybody. We're having multiple guys come down. It looks like a trios match off the top of my head. I got last week's match confused because they did a flashback to when I was watching it, so that's in my head here what I was thinking about. But it was still, you had that other team out there, that guy that 2.0 team, and that guy that yelled all aggressively. Everything was like he's having a heart attack. Those guys stink. Jerry Garcia can hit the bricks. And Darby Allin, he's Darby Allin. He's here to stay in the AEW world, so he can do whatever. But what are we doing? Sting's wandering around the outside. He just wears a T-shirt. He never says anything. Like, he doesn't even... Why are we doing this with Sting? Sting, you're going to be Darby Allin's manager. And when you come in, what you're going to do first, though, is challenge him, in a sense. Then you guys kind of wrestle, but now you're friends. What is happening? Why?
This whole match made zero sense, and I would give it 0 stars if I was a writer for Meltzer's newspaper. But Jerry Garcia controls damn near the entire match. The job guy is winning this match hands down. If we scored it like boxing, he's winning fucking 90-80 right now. He's winning every round. But all of a sudden, Darby Allin hits a couple moves, hits the coffin drop, and then it almost seems like the whole point of this thing was just to get to the afterbirth so that we can have Darby Allin and Sting beat up the 2.0 team, and then Sting, 62-year-old Sting, suplexes one of these dickheads right on the ramp. And, man, that guy's going to – his osteoporosis is going to flare up. He's going to be in a goddamn wheelchair before we know it.
And then it was awkward at the end of this. So he does the suplex, and then the other guy from 2.0 is, like, laying there on the ramp as well. But Sting, like, looks at him, but then he, like, gets away, but then he comes back, and they didn't know what to do. The spot was off, and nobody was able to call an audible. On, like, Sting should have just, as X-Pac said in a shoot interview I was seeing, he should have went into work for himself. Sting should have just booted him in his stupid head and then just rolled him off the ramp. But they didn't know what to do. They did some weird dance, like, I don't know what to do. I'm not supposed to beat him up now. He's not my guy, and I'm supposed to not be in the shot, but I'm laying here, and how do I get off TV? All that kid wanted to do was get the hell out of TV.
And Sting's been in the business for 40 years. He knows how to ad-lib, to call an audible. But for some reason, his dementia just kicked in right there, and he just,
It's not what I do. It's not in the script. You know, he could have booted him in the head and threw him down the alleyway. Right down.
Let's do a hokey pokey.
And we continue on.
And we continue backstage once again, this time with the complete death triangle. We got the Lucha Bros and Pac here. Essentially, Pac just tells the Lucha Bros to focus on the tag team division, focus on getting those titles, and he will take care of Andrade. Pac really got it out for Andrade, cuts a promo on him, and that's what we're going to be leading up to. They've been teasing it for a little bit, but I could get into a Andrade Pac match. I think that could be pretty good.
Best thing they've done so far. They've continued a storyline, cheesy as it may be. I've canceled your flights. I've catered to your friends. I've done this stuff. Whatever. But at least they've stuck with it. I can give them that. They've stuck with this goddamn storyline of Andrade hates Pac. Why? Fuck if I know. But the son of a bitch hates him. He's like the new kid in school that comes to class and he's like, I don't like you. And you're, why don't you like me? It's your first day. How do you not like me? And it's, I got to pick somebody out and make my spot in the yard.
And to be honest here, Andrade, like I said, I didn't give a shit about him in WWE, but he really just walked into AEW and took Kenny Omega's food right out of his mouth. Andrade's character, besides the broken English, is what Kenny Omega needs to be.
That's the elite.
To a T.
That's the elite. That's being elite.
Andrade, the new kid in town, is more elite than your AEW champion.
There you go. There you go.
Here we go, Brian. We've got our 6-man tag here.
And then I remember there was one that followed
it. Excuse me. We've got Orange Cassidy, Schmuck Taylor, and Wheeler Yuta versus Private Party and Matt Hardy. And this one was hard for me to get through. Schmuck Taylor does not have a serious bone in his flabby body. Even on the entrance, he's skipping to the ring like a fucking cheerleader, swinging his arms. He's just... I can't stand him. I can't think of any words that we're allowed to say on YouTube to describe him.
The best friends gimmick, I think, could have been pretty good. The idea is fun, and it can be a little different. But they got to literally take it to being... You can be best friends and be adults. You can be best friends and be homies and be down by law with each other. But you don't have to be little kids like you're in a state of arrested development. Like, I stopped maturing at 12. Like, this is what I love. Some of the throwback stuff did make me laugh. The van, and he got mad at his mom. But he could have, like, still protected his mom. Like, I love the show Robin Big, and that was a whole show about two best friends. The opening theme song was "Let Me Tell You About My Best Friend." It was hilarious, but they didn't like have to go on like elementary school field trips and ride in minivans. They did shit that was like talked about getting, dirty girls and live their life getting into nonsense racing turtles and shit that made me laugh. They didn't do it that way. They took it like we got to cater to 12-year-olds. And then they're not even going for 12-year-olds in their demographic.
No, these best friends are 8-year-olds on a playground. And again, what demographic are you playing to?
Pick one. You
Right.
you got Jericho claiming he's a demo god, and then you got these guys skipping around like assholes. So
like fucking Tinkerbell. So this thing starts out. It was rough. Orange Cassidy grabbing Matt Hardy's hand and forcing Matt Hardy's hand into Orange Cassidy's own pocket. And don't know. I guess they've kind of picked up on how stale the pocket gimmick is getting, so they're trying to shake things up here, I guess.
we want to call it that. The whole thing is stale.
Yeah.
The cheese is old and moldy. Let's move on.
Matt Hardy beats up Orange Cassidy for a minute, and then it's right back to what we fully expected from this match. Fake kicks, silly strings, silly spots. The entire match is just to get a laugh. Cassidy even does a splash off of the bottom rope, which was more or less him standing on the bottom rope and then just falling off like he was in a coma.
Isaiah Cassidy or Orange Cassidy?
Oh, I'm sorry. Orange Cassidy.
No,
he's the lazy one.
But that just comes back to continuity in AEW. We've got Cassidy's. There's multiple people with the last name Cassidy, and we bust on Vince for hating last names, but you don't run into this shit with last names, do you? Not too often. And then you've got Brian Cage, Christian Cage, Adam Page, Diamond Dallas Page, whoever else. We got another one in there somewhere, I think.
Yeah, Nick Gage.
Nick Gage. It's like, my God. So all of that continuity gets lost in the sauce, and you just, the lack of continuity, I should say. So I hate all of that. And this continuing on, and then while I was watching this, I had that same thoughts about the best friends that I just expressed about Private Party. Private Party are guys in the club. These are guys that are in the, if you will, right? These are guys that want to be in the VIP. They're in the bottle service. That's the Private Party. You ever seen private parties using silly string at the club, at the bar? Like, that's not it. That's stupid. They didn't say they were at the 4th grade. They're going to have a piñata, too, and we're going to play, like, this is the Twister. We're playing in every, like, board game. We're going to spin the bottle should be one of their moves, right? This isn't, like, they're not the Sleepover Brothers. They're the Private Party.
We're going to start calling them Pizza Party.
Right, yeah, we're not at Chuck E. Cheese. Like, it's just, the continuity doesn't line up. It's just off. Sorry, I just thought about that. I'm like, why would they call this move silly string? That's stupid. They're not a silly string party.
Right. You just brought up a point and hit the nail right on the head.
This match has nothing to talk about, so this is all I got from the match and how stupid the continuity is, because the rest of the match can.
Oh man. We get Nyla Rose coming out to tackle Chris Statlander, the galaxy's favorite alien. She tackles Chris Statlander out of nowhere just to remind us that they have a match later on.
Not later on. Next.
Oh, yeah, next. So stick around for that barn burner. It's just constant chaos. And the crowd, Brian, this was the worst match on the card. This was the worst match I've seen in months. And if you just close your eyes and listen to audience, they were eating it up by the handful. They loved every second of this. And this is just the chocolate cake theory. They're playing to a bunch of diabetics and saying chocolate cake stinks. And they're just going to keep shoving it down our throats here.
Wilford Brimley was in the audience. He's got his diabetes.
6 people in the ring at once. Jack Evans is on the apron for some reason. Bryce Rimjob. any fucks about any rules.
And he was
He's
a decent referee for AEW for a minute. He was up there for me.
Matt Hardy finally hits Twist of Fate, and it's a wrap. It was just so much chaos that continuity is the perfect word for this one, for the lack thereof, because I can't. I just watched this match last night. I can't put together a timeline of this thing. It was just all chaos, and then a Twist of Fate for the win.
Yes, and then back to that Chris Statlander Nyla Rose thing where it squashes out to like they're gonna fight next, and she just walks off like she's amazing. And Nyla Rose like, yeah, I'm so bad. Again, this is where WWE comes in to shine. They would have followed that up with, don't say, for one, the commentator shouldn't have said they have a match next. They should have just said they have a match later. And then they should have been a backstage segment with her taping up her knee or taping up her ribs and saying, I can't believe you're going to do that when we have a match tonight. You can't beat me. You know, Statlander should have got some verbiage in about how Nyla Rose played her dirty. She didn't do that. They just went to commercial, come back. Chris Statlander's already out there, so screw it. You might as well stay. Orange Cassidy stays out there, and they bring out Nyla Rose again. It's like, why? Like we've already seen Orange Cassidy once. He didn't even get an entrance. He's going to get a pop. Get it from the crowd when he comes out again later. Put him in your back pocket and bring him out in 20 minutes. You love his pockets so much. You love his pockets so much. Anyways, I know it's like little. It seems minute, but it'd just bring the crowd back up again. You've had 9 other squash matches. Throw one in there, and then get a revenge match.
Right, and we can just skip right past Dasha in the back with Andrade and Chavo. That we just find out Andrade's fighting Pac at All Out. But yeah, so AEW, they and Kenny Omega tout and talk so much of how they want to push this women's division so much. Pretty much besides Red Velvet, Britt Baker, and I can't even think of anyone else that they're really pushing.
Who's your big, tall, blonde chick?
Oh, yeah, I wrote her name down later. The one from NWA?
No. Yes, her, but then also now you've got the AEW. Jade Cargill. I mean, they're just trying to put the rocket ship on her. Whether she's worth a damn or not, it's been probably not.
But as far as the rest of the women's division, they're just like 2 girls, 1 cup in them all. Like, no promos or anything. They're just pooping in their mouths. We've got Nyla Rose and Chris Statlander back and forth for a minute with these two. Nothing special whatsoever. We get a Vicky Guerrero screaming spot where she just screams in somebody's face, Orange Cassidy, I believe.
Yeah.
Nyla Rose manhandles Chris Statlander for a minute. Statlander hits a power bomb on her and a 450 splash for the win. And this match was just flatline. Nobody gave a fuck. I didn't give a fuck. It was pretty bad. Not as bad as the 6-man tag previous, but this was basically a go take a poop and bake a cake match.
Chocolate cake, diabetic chocolate cake. This thing stunk. This thing stunk on ice. What happened next?
Yeah. Now we're in the back again, and for some reason the basketball hoop, they brought the motherfucker to Pittsburgh. We got the Young Bucks and Brandon Cutlet in the back. They're still playing the basketball gimmick from a month ago. Nick Buck attempts a layup, but Jurassic Express come out from directly behind the camera and block the shot. It's amazing. It's amazing how the Bucks and Cutlet don't see a fucking 6'6" dinosaur standing directly behind the cameraman.
That's the fourth wall.
Yeah, we can't see past the fourth wall. Dushasaurus gets a block on that shot. Jungle Boy dunks it, so I imagine the rim must be at the 7-foot level, and it was a wrap on that.
Yeah, there's nothing to comment on that. It happened, and we shall move on.
Yeah, just the fact that they can't see past the fourth wall. This happens every single episode. I think it was last week when Malachi Black just appeared from behind the camera directly in Cody's eyesight. And whoa, where did he come from?
And that's the little stuff that you never thought about, but that never really happened in WWE. It was always side attacks. So that was what always changed the game there.
We get a pre-tape of Red Velvet cutting a promo on Britt Baker. Red Velvet is another flat promo. I really don't give a shit when she talks.
Pretty bad when you have a bad pre-taped promo, because like you could have done it as much as you want, as often as you wanted, and edit it together to be good. And that's the best we got.
There's just nothing exciting about Red Velvet.
Even
anything
she knows
whatsoever.
It. Even she knows it.
We got Britt Baker in the ring with Tony Schiavone. Man, her Pittsburgh Penguins gimmick that she put together for this basic week in Pittsburgh is just on point, man. She really knows how to connect with the crowd, especially in her hometown.
She went that black and yellow. I did think that Tony Schiavone should have done this differently. It should have came back from commercial. Schiavone should have been in the ring, but those towels should have already have been spinning, and they should have come back to commercial with those towels spinning and her music hitting with Schiavone in the ring. That was it. Schiavone didn't need to speak in front of it. He didn't need to go, "Hey, guys, got your towels ready?" Like, all that should have been off camera. Why was that on live TV? That should have been off. You should have came back to her, those towels spinning, people cheering. They could have done that in between. We've been to live wrestling events. We've seen them shut music off, turn music on, and get you hype again before the commercial comes down. We've seen them explain to you, we're counting down from 10. We're coming back live. Let's see those towels, guys. They get the towels spinning. Boom. Baker's music hits. They come out. Schiavone's there. They do the interview. Why make it be like, get your towels ready? Like, why you got to talk me through this stuff? And then on live TV. Hate it.
It's just blatant inexperience of working live TV. It's just, we've only been doing this for 2 years, and it seems like they should have picked up on little things like that by now just from watching WWE or being at WWE live shows of how you can work such a small thing and get such a big impact out of it. But you're right. It's just inexperience on TV timing, TV writing, and I think that's probably another thing QT Marshall's in charge of, and he is doing a terrible job.
QT Marshall. We shall discuss more about that later.
Yeah. Anyway, Britt Baker and Red Velvet will main event Rampage on Friday.
And hey, God bless, I give it to him on that. Like, that's a decent main event. Not because they're giving Britt Baker the spot. The decent main event is, Britt will make it entertaining.
Red Velvet attacks her. We get 3 referees immediately to separate them.
And even my wife, so she comes in and the TV's on, and she goes, "I thought this was wrestling. Why can't they let them fight?" Without missing a beat.
Well, it's another one. It's like choose one or the other. So we had earlier on, we had Christian Cage, or who was it near the beginning, just catching a straight up beatdown forever, and no referees or anybody came in to stop him. But this one, Red Velvet just tackles Britt Baker, and immediately get the entire security team out there.
Yeah. And you know what I think we forgot to mention earlier is that Jurassic Express is getting a tag team title shot. They mentioned that in that Christian Cage promo. We forgot to chat about that for a second. Let's throw that out there. It did happen, and we shall see what happens with that.
Yeah, so Ricky Starks cuts a promo. Well, this wasn't really cutting a promo. This was a pre-tape, but it's almost as if Ricky Starks and Brian Cage in 2 different locations are having a conversation with each other. You'll get one soundbite from Ricky Starks, and Brian Cage will be like, "You know what? I don't like what you said, or I don't believe you, blah, 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 blah." And the way they put pre-tapes together between 2 guys like that just drives me batty, because if you're going to play it like they can hear each other cutting promos, just put them in the same room.
The way that only works for me is if it's somebody commenting on an old promo, but cutting half of it with a new promo. So Eric cuts a promo on me. Now, in my promo, I'm using segments of his promo, and reacting to them in a reaction style thing. Works for me that way, but that wasn't really how this was done.
No, this was like 2 live promos.
Right. Then then it just looks like contrived weirdness.
And speaking of contrived weirdness, we've got Stu Grayson and Pizzeria Uno taking on the Good Brothers for the Impact tag titles.
Yes, with what's his name sitting in on commentary there from Impact. I forget the guy's Scott D'Amore.
Yes, Scott D'Amore.
Yes. Now, before we dive too much into this, had a speculation. Last week, we were tearing apart the Dark Order. What are they? Are they good? Are they bad? I like the angle they're going with it. You're saying I'm looking at it through different eyes. We had this conversation. If you remember, go back and listen to the podcast there on iTunes, Spotify, or at anchor.fm/thekayfabesmark Smark and listen to last week's show. But in that discussion, we're back and forth. They have no leader. What are they going to do? Brody Lee, etc., and so on. Good friend of the show, Mr. Andrew, sends me a text message as he's listening to the show, and he says, do you think that this is some way they can take the Dark Order to be unled, be no leadership, be weird and misfits that aren't fitting in anywhere and socially awkward weirdos, in turn to bring them a new leader in who everybody wants to speculate, a Bray Wyatt, or whatever he's going to call himself, and also coming in with his other minions, the Braun Strowmans and the like, coming in to be the new leaders of the Dark Order. It's a good theory, or any leader really, but it's just a good theory of way that they could take this. But as I told him, it's AEW, and it'll probably never happen because, god dang it, that makes sense.
I was going to say, well, Mr. Good Friend of the show, Andrew, you're giving AEW way too much credit. This is what happened. They lost their leader. Tony Khan didn't have anything for him. Brody Lee wasn't there to kind of keep things going in the right direction. So they're just like, just do whatever you want. Well, it turns out the Dark Order is just a bunch of clowns. So they're just going to do a bunch of clown shit. And if they get a Bray Wyatt, if they get a Braun Strowman, if they get someone back in there to snap them back into reality and get them focused back on being a heel group, it's just going to be a happy coincidence. There's no way this is a long-term storyline where these fucking clowns act like goofs and then a leader's going to snap them back into reality.
They had too much merchandise printed up and they had to continue with this thing and keep it alive. Now we can continue and talk about this tag team match.
All right, Stu Grayson jumps the gun on this one. The baby faces are jumping the heels before the match. That seems to be a continued gimmick with AEW. Baby faces jumping the heels here. He jumps the gun on the heels with a tope, cone, chili, boom, shakalaka, sita on both Good Brothers on the outside of the ring. Brandon Cutler, I'm saying this with all seriousness. There's not a joking tone to my voice whatsoever. There's not a joking bone in my heart when I say this. Brandon Cutler needs to be future endeavored.
And unfortunately, that will never happen.
I don't know who he's blowing. I don't know if he's
the Bucks. He's been the Young Bucks' best friend since they were 12.
He's holding their pockets, one in each hand, and the cold spray gimmick, the mask gimmick. He's trying to be a heel manager by holding Evil Uno's leg, but because Uno is fat and out of shape, he just holds Uno's leg for a solid 10 seconds to make sure that he's ready for him to pull his leg so that he can fall off the apron. Colt Cabana punches Brandon Cutler in the face, and he sells it like a fucking cartoon character. I felt like I was watching Woody Woodpecker or fucking Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam the way he sold this punch. Thankfully, Kaz, the elite hunter, comes out and drags Brandon Cutler off to the back, And thankfully, that's the last that we see him for this match.
This whole Elite Hunter thing is still driving me nuts. Why did he let him go if he's hunted them? Why did they come back next week? I know you weren't a big WCW guy, but when Sting took the Disciple from the NWO, who was played by Brutus Beefcake, he would call himself the Disciple for a minute. Sting took him, and every time you saw the Disciple, he was lifeless. So Sting would have him by his vest, and he'd just be like laying there all lifeless, and then he would drag him out to the ring, and he'd drag him back, and he was like this illusion that he was keeping him up. Or remember when Jericho kidnapped Chyna and he was breaking her hand in WWE and he was hitting it with the hammer and all that stuff? Like, they took people away and put them in rooms, and it was maybe very extremes or whatever, but why isn't he picking them off one by one? What's the end gimmick of the Elite Hunter? Is he going for the title? Is he trying to pick them off? Where is this going? And why do you let them go once you pick them off? Or why aren't they continuously injured? Why isn't he like, he get him and he broke his arm. Now you got Cutler in a sling for a week and a half. Or break a leg or break a foot, and you're picking them apart. You just Elite hunts, and then he lets them go. He's a catch and release fella. He's not out to kill. He's out for the
Elite
sport.
Hunter's gimmick is to come out and mildly annoy the Elite during their matches.
Mildly annoy them.
He's the Elite annoyance.
Oh, there you go. Oh, man. Let's talk about some more.
Uno is a fucking slob. He's lost a lot of weight, but he's still a fat, sloppy son of a bitch. He does shit he doesn't need to be doing. Why is Evil Uno doing a Hurricanrana? You got his guess. My dog has as good a guess as anybody. He completely botches the Hurricanrana. Damn near breaks his neck. Dick Grayson gets in there, and he's actually pretty smooth and concise working with Carl Anderson here.
Dick Grayson.
He's a fucking goof, but, the kid can work. There's talent in the Dark Order. They're just a bunch of fucking clowns.
Yeah, they're not allowed to put it out.
There's a goofy, contrived spot in this. Oh, this drove me nuts. You've got Pizzeria Uno just laying on his back in the middle of the ring with his fat feet in the air, and Stu Grayson hitting Carl Anderson. Anderson teasing a fall before he does like a Ric Flair fall, landing on Evil Uno's feet, and Uno just launches him into the corner into his partner Gallows here. And the crowd is just eating it up like fucking Pac-Man with a roll of quarters. They really came to see this Orange Cassidy inspired clown show, and that's just a theme for tonight. It's like this loud audience, these Pittsburgh fans are passionate, and they're passionate about this goofy shit.
Goofy shit it was. I hated that spot too, where he laid on his back. It took way too long. It didn't happen fast enough. If it happened quick, if he was in the ring on his back, boom, 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 then fine. But it was like this. Then the overselling of the wobbly head, like he was in Mortal Kombat, and we finish him, and he's standing there all wobbly while you hit up, down, left, right, so Sub-Zero can freeze you and punch your head off. Like, it just didn't make any sense. It just didn't make. Why would you stand there so long? Why was he laying there so long? Why didn't he get out of the way? There's a lot of whys in there. Why did it happen? Is the big why.
And that's a good point. You could have had the best of both worlds with that one. If it would have just been, okay, he's about to punch Anderson here, drop down, feet down, as your knees are kicking back, Carl Anderson's already falling, bam, kick him. If it would have been a 2-second spot with the same exact move, it would have went over way better.
Took too long.
Way too long.
Way too long.
We get a nonsensical spot here with Evil Uno just launching his tag team partner out of the ring onto one of the Good Brothers there. So zero regard for your partner's safety, because unless it's fake and put together and choreographed, then why would you throw your partner outside of the ring and risk injuring him? the only way to throw them outside of the ring is if you know that one of the Good Brothers is out there to catch them.
Yeah.
And then after just a bunch of goofy spots, the Good Brothers hit the stun gun and the magic killer, and they retain their titles.
Yeah, again, this match got a little contrived, a little sloppy. There was a lot of cheating-esque moves going on by the Elite again. And, why? Why? You're the Elite. You are the representations of the Bullet Club from the OG Bullet Club here. These guys should be the best. They should be the men. And they got to bring it down to dirty tactics. And it's like, that's not the bad guys you are. MJF is that bad guy. MJF cheats, and I'm like, I love it. I love it. And then these guys cheat, and you go, that's not who you are, though. You're doing the opposite of what it is. Scott D'Amore didn't put over his brand of Impact at all on commentary. He just went, hey, look, they retained. Then he got up and left. He was like, all right, well, there you go. And it was like he didn't really want to be there is how it felt. It just was different. None of it just felt off. There should have been a bit more energy for another belt, another promotions belt championship being defended on your TV, on a different TV. It should have been like, this is, we're going to call this Impact. They should have brought in Impact's commentators. They should have, just changed it just a little bit, but they didn't.
I mean, shit, we get more of a pop and more excitement out of an NXT belt getting defended on SmackDown or Raw, and they're in the same company.
Right.
This wasn't a big deal at all that a complete rival competition company is defending their belts on our television. It was just kind of like another walk in the park.
Yeah.
Just a day at the zoo.
Day at the zoo. Who gives a shit? And Scott D'Amore didn't care, and the match went over like those guys didn't care either. So.
And that's why Impact's doing the numbers they're doing.
12.
12. Not 12,000. Just 12.
Just 12.
We get a Camille from NWA fame, a Camille promo on Layla Hirsch, and we get a ton of NWA footage showing off Camille's skills, and she's impressive. I can't wait to see more of her. I might actually have to track down some current NWA to see Camille in action. I like them big, strong girls. Them
freaks.
I like seeing them girls work. Not the what was that? Nyla Rose. Not Rose. That kind of big beast, but the Camille's, the Rhea Ripley's, the Raquel Gonzalez's. I want to see them girls
China
beat the shit out of each other. Yeah. Throwing each other around and doing upside down grapevines and all that. I'm going to be a big fan of Camille here, and it'll be interesting to see what she does with Layla Hirsch. Layla Hirsch is a freaking...
She's tiny.
Yeah. She's a freaking elf.
We'll leave it there.
To Camille here.
She is tiny. What else happened here in this show? Because I got to feel we got to be coming close to the end of this nonsense.
We're almost there. First, we got to get through a QT Marshall and Tony Schiavone promo here.
Who gives a shit?
Again, nail right on the head there. Nobody gives a shit about QT Marshall. And they set this up like QT's going to apologize for pouring a protein shake on Tony Schiavone's head a solid month ago.
Do you remember it?
I don't even remember it happening.
After they brought it up, I remembered it, but it wasn't fresh in my brain going, how are they going to wrap this storyline up? Real storylines, I wonder how they're going to bring home and wrap them up together, and then they talk about a protein shake on Tony Schiavone's head.
And why are we wasting TV time on this? Everyone knows Tony Schiavone is a fucking moron. I respect the guy, but he's a fucking goof. He's out there hugging heels, and he's a laughing stock, essentially. Nobody cares about QT Marshall. The guy can work, but personality-wise, he's fucking beige. Nobody gives a shit about him. Well, anyway, we get Tony Schiavone's son in the ring, Chris Schiavone, And apparently this kid wants to become a wrestler. He takes a couple punches in the belly. QT RKO's him. That RKO was pretty smooth. Chris took it well. QT delivered it well. But again, besides the crispness of that move, nobody gave a shit. Big Show comes out to make the save. He's looking
Big Slow.
Yeah, I actually wrote Big Slow. And the shape, Big Slow's looking pretty odd here. He's got a barrel chest and little tiny legs. He looks like what's that guy from Family Guy?
The guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
He was getting that odd shape back even in his last WWE run. It was like his knees. I don't know if they're handling and they come into a weird angle. I feel bad. I'm sure he's in a lot of pain. He is just looking
like Andre.
Right. That same stuff. This spot, this whole thing with Tony Schiavone, this whole thing with QT Marshall and this protein shake is the equivalent of WWE next week having The Rock come back and apologize to Michael Cole for putting a T-shirt on his face during a promo that he did in 1997 when he said, "Here, hold this shirt," and he took it over there and then took the microphone away from him and pushed him out of there. That's the equivalent of what just happened. Like, it was so dumb. It didn't matter. It was a reason to bring Chris Schiavone in and get a belly punch and maybe work his way onto being a wrestler.
Yeah. The only thing I'll contradict to you is it's more like D'Lo Brown coming back to apologize to Michael Cole. But anyway, Big Slow comes out. He choke slams Aaron Solo, stares down QT Marshall, and that's a good reminder that I read that Big Show intends on wrestling again.
Yeah.
He wasn't just talking shit when he first got signed to AEW. He mentioned in a recent interview that he was brought in a commentating role and more of a backstage role, pretty much to observe and get used to the guys and find out their styles and to figure out who he could work with on a limited basis. That way he can get back in the ring. And as stiff as old Paul White looked in that ring, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, he's just going to get out there. There'll be a couple big moves, a choke slam, a boot. It'll be like an old Andre match. You know, let them work around him. He'll get tied up in the ropes, choke slam somebody, and call it a day.
Now, do you want to talk about consistency, Brian? Do you want to talk about following the steps that you laid out just last week? Because we have the fourth labor of Jericho coming up. We have Jericho versus Wardlow. I went back and watched the Jericho MJF segment from last week. Last week, MJF said he would be accompanying Wardlow to the ring to make sure the match was fair. JR took that ball and ran with it, saying twice. First, he said Friedman as a ref. And then he said something about MJF being a referee. Again, JR mentioned it twice, that MJF was going to be refereeing this match. And I think that's the point we all understood. You and I even riffed on it for a minute on last week's show.
All right. I'm glad you brought this up because I thought I was having a stroke last night watching this. I was thinking, like, I swear I remember he was going to be the referee, but we've got Aubrey in there. And he's there. He's on the outside, but he's just MJF. I thought he's not even a special enforcer. He wasn't even an outside referee. He was just MJF in Wardlow's corner instead of Wardlow in MJF's corner.
Yeah, continuity right out the fucking window with this one, because
even if it wasn't the plan, JR said it. New plan. It was said on TV.
Nobody bothered correcting us. Nobody bothered correcting JR in that moment. Like, well, JR, he's just going to be on the outside making sure everything's okay. It was drilled into our heads because your lead commentator said twice that MJF was going to be the referee.
So here's how you fix it. It happened. Have it happen. Have MJF get knocked out and get hurt, and have Aubrey Edwards come in for the pin, and now he didn't have to count the pin for Jericho. Or do what I said last week and have MJF still count it and just staring him dead in the eye.
But instead, we just get MJF as a manager
For his best friend. Who cares?
For his best friend, not an enforcer. He didn't even put the stipulation in that he could interfere, because the first time MJF pulls a heel move and interferes in this match, he's ejected out of the match by Aubrey Edwards. How in the world is this any type of fourth labor of Jericho? It was just a match against Wardlow. There was no stipulations whatsoever. Garbage.
Subpar at best.
This was another terrible match. This was just slow, methodical. It's almost like Wardlow was trying to channel Roman Reigns in this aspect with just the slow, methodical power moves and dirty tactics. Wardlow's on offense 90% of this match. Wardlow, he's a fucking brick shit house, and Jericho's put on a little chub, but Wardlow is struggling with some of these power moves, lifting Jericho, power bombing Jericho. He almost dropped him on his head.
And then we got to see Jericho. We got to see Jericho catch a power bomb, and then in the midst of it, his pants get pulled down. He took a flat back power bomb, and it hurt so bad that he was able to pull his pants back up. Like, he couldn't even sell it with his, don't sell that, man. Wait till it's off. The referee will tell you when you're off TV to fix your pants. Like, let the cameraman flip around. But again, just little things that I never knew existed that actually happen in wrestling.
Yeah, it was almost like Super Crazy on the indie show we saw, where he was so hurt by the move he took, but he still had the
continuity. Continuity's in my brain. He had the intuition to pull his shirt down so his fat belly didn't hang out.
And like I stated before, MJF is ejected for raking Jericho's eyes during a Walls of Jericho, one of the two offensive moves Jericho gets in this match. And right after MJF is ejected for cheating, Chris Jericho hits Wardlow in the face with a baseball bat. I use the term hit very loosely here. And then a Judas effect for the win. That elbow, Jericho's writing his own script and has complete creative control.
Yes.
Because this spinning elbow could knock out fucking Iron Man in one hit. Like, they're making this thing out to be the biggest power finishing move I've ever seen, and it's the lamest shit I've ever seen, all in the same sentence.
It's a good out of nowhere move. But it shouldn't be his go-to move. It's a good out of nowhere. He should be able to win with it, but it's an out of nowhere move, and that's when it needs to be pulled out. You don't set up for it, like, Hogan with the big boot and the leg drop, like, all right, shit's over, it's a wrap. But you can't set up the Judas effect, and that's what they're trying to do with it. Like, oh, here it comes. You can't tune up the band like Shawn Michaels getting ready to throw a super kick. He can sit there and pat his elbow, like, The Rock threw the elbow pad. Those were not out of nowhere moves. The RKO, out of nowhere move, literally, all puns intended. RKO out of nowhere, and the Judas effect should be an out of nowhere move. That's where I would categorize it.
Yeah, definitely an out of nowhere move. But in AEW, you see some devastating power moves. And everybody kicks out of all of them. One finishing move never puts anyone down. But Jericho's lame-ass spinning elbow, even after taking 15 minutes of abuse, hitting a quick spinning elbow ends the match.
Right. Earlier in the night, we had, how many knee triggers did Jerry Garcia take, or whoever it was, from Kenny Omega? He took, 2 from Kenny, and then a triple one from all 3 of them, and then it finally put him down. But one elbow... One tricep to your cheekbone. Boy, it's a wrap, Jack. You're put out to sleep.
Even if you're Wardlow, a 6'4", 270-pound giant, this 53-year-old tricep to the face, it would probably be like getting hit in the face with a My Pillow. It just puts you right to sleep.
Yeah, put me to sleep. Put me to sleep, all right. And then that was the end of this. We get the fifth labor of Jericho is him and MJF next week.
Well, first we got to tread through the afterbirth here, Brian, because Jericho immediately gets attacked by the chairman, Shawn Spears.
Oh, yeah.
Sammy Guevara makes the save and ends up catching a beat down. Oh, this is what I was talking about with people getting beat down and the referees don't care. But two chicks pull each other's hair and you got to call in the fucking cavalry. Sammy Guevara makes a save, catches a beat down. MJF puts Chris Jericho in some sort of arm bar. Jack Hager comes in, makes the save. I completely forgot Jack Hager existed.
He's been off TV for a week and a half.
He's been what?
He's been off TV for, I said a week and a half, and I meant like a month and a half.
Pinnacle, without FTR or even just Dax, because we know Cash is hurt. Pinnacle leave the ring. MJF gets on the mic. The fifth labor of Jericho is his match against MJF. And you know what these stipulations are, Brian? No music.
And no Judas effect.
No Judas
at all.
It is barred from this match.
You know the crowd just going to sing him in.
Right. That's going to be part of the gimmick.
Right. It better be. If it's not, I'm going to quit.
I want to get on the AEW forum and be like, you guys want to troll these motherfuckers? Silence. When Jericho comes out, dead silence.
Yeah. No sell his ass.
I think he would leave, or he would be like, go to commercial.
Then
they would force the crowd to sing him in.
It was like when we went to Saturday night's main event and we saw Edge do his entrance twice because they didn't like the way the first one looked. It was an early pre-tape. What we did, and that wraps that up. Was there anything else to talk about that? We forgot one little thing that I did think was cool.
No, what'd you get?
The promo from Proud and Powerful from Santana and Ortiz. We didn't talk about their backstage little promo that they had cutting on FTR and using like how they're here and they're hungry, and if you want us, come back for us. And they talked about how he cut his elbow, and you got the blood, and when you get blood in our streets, we wrap them up and meet us back here if you got the guts. And they really worked on that there. FTR got hurt, and it was a nice little. You might have been heavy on the fast forward button.
I must have been.
It was pretty good though. I'd recommend go back and look that little promo up. Proud and Powerful cut a good promo and keeping the storyline alive with FTR and what's his name being out hurt there with his elbow.
Cash Wheeler.
Cash with his elbow or his tricep, wherever it was at, high there on the arm. Got him all self cut up. They got a good close up too of it where it gets pinched in there and how it gets ripped. It's pretty gnarly. So go back and check that out. But that was AEW. That's the KayFabe Smark podcast. That's episode 63, I believe we are talking on this bad boy here. So make sure you guys go check us out on all the social media platforms. And Eric, what do you have for us?
All I got left to say is hooty hoo. We out the gates.